never imagined that the most unexpected relationship in my life would be the one to bring me clarity, peace, and even joy. I've been married for 7 years to a man named Richard. First, everything seemed perfect. He was charming, successful, and a devoted father to his son, Jason. When we met, I felt like I had finally found the kind of partner who would make me feel safe and seen. But life has a funny way of showing you who people really are. Over time, not all at once. Richard had been married once before. His ex-wife left when Jason was only 9, and the boy stayed with Richard full-time. When I entered the picture, Jason was 11, awkward and quiet but respectful. I didn't try to be his mom, I just tried to be kind. Slowly, we developed a cordial, sometimes sweet bond. I helped him with school projects, gave him space, and made sure he knew I was there if he needed anything. He never called me Mom, and I never asked him to. As the years passed, Richard's charm started to fade. He became distant and irritable. I blamed it on work stress at first, then on midlife anxiety, then on anything else I could think of to excuse his behavior. He started spending more time out late, taking weekend trips without me, and turning every conversation into a power struggle. I found myself walking on eggshells, trying not to trigger his anger. Meanwhile, Jason grew into a young man, compassionate, thoughtful, and perceptive. Jason was 17 when things started getting really bad between Richard and me. I remember a night when Richard came home from a trip 2 days late without even calling to let me know. I had cooked dinner, lit candles, tried to create something romantic, and he just walked in, tossed his keys on the table and asked, "Why are you always trying so hard?" I blinked back tears and watched as he disappeared into the bedroom, not even offering a hug. Jason had overheard the whole thing from the hallway. He didn't say anything, just sat down at the table and quietly ate the dinner I made. That night he helped me clean up, even though he usually just put his own plate away. He said, "You don't deserve to be treated like that." That simple sentence cracked something open in me. I began noticing more differences between them. While Richard rarely said thank you or noticed anything I did around the house, Jason always did. If I looked tired, Jason offered to help. If I seemed sad, he asked if I wanted to talk. It was subtle at first, but it became more pronounced with time. Jason, now 18, began showing me the kind of attention and empathy that I hadn't felt from Richard in years. One afternoon, Richard was away again. Another urgent business trip that felt more like an excuse to escape. I had a flat tire on the way home from the grocery store. I called Richard and he didn't answer. Jason, however, picked up immediately. Within 20 minutes, he was there with his toolbox, fixing the tire and making sure I was okay. I remember watching him in the golden light of sunset, sweat on his forehead, sleeves rolled up, and this calm confidence in his voice. He smiled at me and said, "You shouldn't have to deal with stuff like this alone." That moment made my chest ache. I couldn't tell if it was from guilt, sadness, or something else. We never crossed any inappropriate lines. That needs to be said. But something emotional did shift between us. He started checking in on me more. I started opening up about how I felt. We talked late at night sometimes, about his dreams, his fears, my disappointments, my regrets. He never judged me, never interrupted, never acted like I was a burden. It felt like he saw me as a human being, not just as someone filling the role of stepmother. Richard, meanwhile, was becoming increasingly hostile. He accused me of being too soft, of turning Jason against him, of acting like a victim. The more he lashed out, the more he exposed his own insecurity. He was no longer the man I married. And deep down, I knew he hadn't been that man for a long time. One day, Richard came home early and heard Jason and me talking in the kitchen. We were laughing over a silly story from his school, something light and innocent. Richard walked in, looked at us and sneered. "Glad you two are having such a good time while I'm out there working my tail off." I stood there stunned. Jason looked at his father with something I hadn't seen in a while. Disappointment. He said, "Maybe if you treated people better, you wouldn't feel so left out." That moment lit a fire I didn't know Jason had in him. It was the first time he stood up to his dad so openly. Richard just scoffed and stormed off. After that, the tension in the house became unbearable. Jason and I kept things respectful, but Richard grew colder, accusing, and more paranoid. Finally, one night during another one of his accusations, he said, "I bet you wish you were with him instead of me." The silence in that room was suffocating. I didn't answer. Not because I did, but because I didn't know how to explain what I was feeling. Jason was better than his father, not as a romantic partner but as a man. He was kind, decent, patient, and present. He reminded me of everything I used to want. He wasn't the solution to my failed marriage, but he made me realize I deserved better. A few weeks later, I asked Richard for a divorce. He didn't fight it. He seemed almost relieved. I moved out and got a small apartment across town. Jason came to visit me often, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He brought groceries, helped fix the leaky sink, and even brought me books he thought I'd like. One day, while we were sitting on the couch, he said, "I always saw how hard you tried. I'm sorry my dad didn't." That sentence made me cry more than anything else. I wasn't crying over the end of my marriage. I was crying because someone finally saw me. Not just looked at me but really saw me. Not as a role but as a person. Jason is 21 now. He's in college doing well and we still talk regularly. He has a girlfriend his age, a sweet girl named Ellie, and I'm genuinely happy for him. I'm glad he found someone who appreciates his goodness. And I'm healing, slowly, learning how to be by myself and rebuild who I am outside of a marriage. Sometimes people misunderstand my story. They think I crossed a line with my stepson. But the truth is, he simply reminded me what kindness felt like. In a world where I was overlooked, dismissed, and made to feel small, Jason offered me dignity. He didn't fix me, but he helped me remember that I didn't need to be broken. If you're watching or listening to this and you've ever felt like your partner stopped seeing you, please know you're not alone. And sometimes the people who show you the most love aren't the ones you expect. My stepson didn't become a substitute for a husband. He became a reflection of the kind of love I deserved all along.